In this lesson, we'll be learning how to animate using the motion tween. Using the motion tween, it's surprisingly easy to make the objects in your animation move, change shape, change color, or fade to nothingness. The first step is to convert the graphics you want to tween to a flash symbol. Normally a movie clip, but any symbol will work. So if I go to my library, I do have an existing symbol in this provided file called wheel, and it happens to be a movie clip. What I'll do is I'll actually drag that to the stage right now, near the top of the stage, and close my library. Now I only have one layer and one frame so far. So what I'm going to do now with the frame highlighted is go up to Insert and choose Motion Tween. What this does is it moves the playhead to the end of the span, but this whole span now can be animated using the motion tween. And it basically works in two steps. First step is position the playhead, where we want to create what is known as a property keyframe, which holds all the properties in that frame, and then change the object on the stage. So right now my playhead is at the end of the span, so I'm just going to drag this wheel to the bottom of the page here. Now you notice that there's a little diamond shape at the end, and that represents a property keyframe. So within my motion tween I can have property keyframes, and that's where properties will change, and in this case it happens to be the position on the stage. Now the next thing I'd like to do is actually squish this wheel down a bit. So I'm going to move my playhead about 4 frames past here, click it, and I'll hit F5 to generate a frame. Now that I've created those extra frames, I'm ultimately going to make this a keyframe too. So I will go and highlight the wheel on the stage and go to my Properties panel, and I will change the width and height. So I'll stretch it wide. I'll change that from 85 to 150 pixels wide, hit my Tab key, and I'll change the height to 60 pixels high. So I've really squished it and spread it wide, so it's going to have that rubbery feel when it hits the ground. I'll collapse my Properties panel here so I can see. And if I drag my playhead back and forth, you see it not only goes up and down, but it gradually squishes at the bottom. Now I don't want it to be so gradual. I actually want it to stay the same proportion until it hits this first diamond shape, which is a property keyframe. So what I should do is, with my playhead on this frame, highlight the wheel on the stage once more and just tweak this. So go back to my Properties panel and change that back to 85 by 85 pixels. And then again collapse the menu. And now it will only stretch, if you will, between these 2 pixels. So it only stretches there. So it starts at the top, it moves down to the bottom, and once it encounters that first diamond shape, that keyframe, only then does it start to stretch. Okay, so basically we've got the first half of the bouncing ball effect going on, but we want to do the second half, which happens to be the exact same in reverse. So I'm going to show you, basically we're going to do copy and paste of all of these frames and paste them on the next frame, and then we'll reverse the order. And we can do that basically in 2 moves. So I want to select all of these frames, so I'm going to hold down my Control key on the PC, Command key on the Mac, click this first keyframe, and drag across to select. Make sure your Control key is down before you click and drag, but I can see that that's all highlighted now. And now I will right click it and choose Copy Frames. Okay, then I will go into the frame, the first empty frame after that span, right click again, and paste frames. Now I'm just going to change my timeline to tiny here so I can see it all. But if I scrub through, it's basically the same thing twice. So what I want to do is take this second motion tween. You'll notice, actually, let me zoom up here a bit to small. You notice there's a dark line here and a round circle. This block is a whole nother motion tween. It's not part of the first one. It's its unique motion tween. But what I do want to do is highlight this second block again. So Command key down, click and drag to highlight. And again, it's simply a right click. And this is pretty sweet. I just need to go reverse frames. So reverse keyframes down here. And click. And let's just drag our playhead across. And there we have it. We have the full back trip, if you will, the reverse of the first half. And it's exactly the same, so a copy, paste, and a reverse made total sense. Instead of going in, manually creating new keyframes and so on, this not only speeds things up, but it ensures accuracy as well. So that's the copy and paste frames, as well as the reverse frames command on a right click. Now let's talk about the motion path here. It's this purple line that got generated when we created our second keyframe. And you can see each dot here represents a frame. I can highlight that just by clicking on it once, and you see how it gets a bit darker. And you also see that the motion tween got highlighted in the layer. And I can literally just move that as a chunk, as a whole group, if you will. And it does keep its relative animation intact. And of course I moved it to the right, but the keyframes all went together. I'm just going to undo that for a second, put it back. The other thing I can do is I can actually put a curve to the line by grabbing any one of these dots and just dragging it out. I'll just deselect for a second and then go back and grab it. And you see how that cursor changes? I can actually put a curve to the line, and I can affect the nature of the curve, very organic. But now, if I drag my playhead across, you see how it follows that. The other thing I can do is I can grab the start and the end point as well and move those. So you can, make modifications by directly grabbing the motion path as well. I move my playhead back and forth, and it does follow that line. Now, I'm going to undo all this for a second. There we go. Now there's one more thing I can do with this motion path. Let me just stretch this back out to a curve again for a second. I can affect these endpoints also with the sub-selection tool, which gives me a little bit more control over the nature of the curve. Let me just click on this endpoint here. And you see how the handles appear. I can now actually create an S shape if I like. And it just gives me that much more control over that line. And that again is the sub-selection tool on the endpoint. So if I move this up here, sub-selection tool, highlight this endpoint, I can move it as well as affect the nature of its curve. And that is how we manipulate the motion path with the selection tool and the sub-selection tool. And again, I'm simply going to undo some of these steps. There we go. Now I want to share another cool feature you can do with motion paths, and that is that you can actually draw a path with the pen tool, the line tool, or the pencil tool, and then apply it to a motion tween. But I can't draw it in that motion tween, so I'm going to create a new layer. I'll go down to my layer icon, create a new layer. And this is for a temporary purpose, but I'm just going to go with my pencil tool and draw a line which will be my new motion path. So let me just kind of draw this crazy spiral here. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to go and copy that line, go to my selection tool, highlight that line, copy it, then go to my tween, highlight the path itself, and paste it, and it will replace that. Here we go, paste. And now I have my new motion path. So once again, I can create a line and then apply it after. So let me just re-demonstrate that. I'll just create another line over here. I'll go to layer 2. I can delete that now. You can see that it actually just copied it. So I'm going to go to layer 2. I'll just create another line here quickly. Maybe this time I'll use the pen tool. Okay, there's my crazy line. I'll just double click that to highlight it, copy it, highlight my motion path. So I'll actually click on it, and as soon as I paste, it will replace it. So this will snap over to here and adopt this new line basically. So edit. I'll just go Command V, paste in center, and there it has adopted that line. If I had gone paste in place, it would have put it right over top of where the other one was. I can actually get rid of that now. Highlight the layer itself to delete everything in the layer by hitting my delete key. And again, if I highlight this, I can see the whole path. Now if I highlight that path, I can move the whole thing up a bit. And if I drag my playhead across here, you can see that it does completely adopt that new path. Pretty powerful feature, especially when you want to do complex motion paths. So that's how you copy and paste a new motion path. Now something else we can do is we can actually copy properties from one keyframe to another. What I need to do is highlight the property on its layer. So we do that by control clicking on the keyframe. If I go down here, let's say I want to copy the nature of the squished wheel as well as the position. I'll go down to this keyframe, and with my control key down on the PC, command key on the Mac, I highlight the single frame. Again, that's how you isolate a keyframe in a motion tween. You need to control click it. Otherwise you're going to highlight the whole motion tween. So control clicking that keyframe, I will then right click on the keyframe and choose copy properties. And then go to the destination keyframe, if you will. Let's say I want to go back here. Again, control click this keyframe. You see that it's highlighted there. And then right click on it. And I have two choices basically. One is paste properties, and the other is more specific, paste properties special. I'll show you both. I'll start with paste properties. See what it did? It pasted its new position and the new dimensions. Let me just undo that for a second. And with it still highlighted, I'll right click and go paste property special. This lets me pick and choose. You can see there are 6 properties that could be copied. I had 4 selected. Now if I only want to change the position, I would turn these off. Click OK. See, it did not distort the dimensions. Let me undo that again and try it one more time with a different set. Right click, paste property special. Let's say I want to get everything except the position. In other words, just have that squished look, but keep it in the same position on the stage. I just uncheck position and click OK. And that is how we can copy and paste properties from one keyframe to the next. And that pretty well sums up the various features of the motion tween.